Welcome back. Wednesday, February 17th. I think this is the second time in the history of our monologues where I had a monologue prepared and I had to rewrite it. First was January 6th. Today, February 17th. As I had just finished the last notes on my last monologue, I learned of the passing of Rush Limbaugh and tried to scribble these thoughts, feeble though they are, to match the circumstances. Few lives changed the world. Rush Limbaugh changed the world. Few things I can say that haven't been said by others, but for those in radio broadcast, but for him, none of us would be here. He rescued the format. He actually invented the format. One could fairly say he saved AM radio. Andy McCarthy wrote this of Rush. Rush is an American original. It is said of some originals that if you didn't have them, you'd have to invent them. Voltaire was talking about God when he said it. Yet no one could have ever invented Rush because he was inconceivable. When he burst upon the national scene over 3 decades ago, popular political media was the preserve of the political left. The thought of anyone, much less an unabashed conservative, carrying a 3-hour daily broadcast through monologues teeming with conviction and good cheer with the occasional phone call, but virtually no guests, was not just unheard of, it was not in the realm of perceived possibility. It took talent on loan from God, for sure, but it mainly took a guy with supreme belief in himself, belief that was well-founded because it sprang from a unique combination of life experience, of getting off the floor when life knocks you down, and of a sense of destiny about doing what you're born to do. Add to that Rush's abiding faith in the innate goodness of America, of her traditions, love of liberty, willingness to sacrifice, and grasp that human flourishing means learning from our mistakes. Matt Continetti writes, no media figure since William Buckley has had a more lasting influence on American conservatism than Rush Limbaugh, whose cumulative weekly audience was more than 20 million people. Since national syndication in 1988, Rush Limbaugh has been the voice of conservatism, his 3-hour program blending news, politics, and entertainment into a powerful and polarizing, sometimes, cocktail. It's one thing to excel in your field, it's another to create the field in which you excel. Conservative talk radio was local and niche before Limbaugh. He was the first to capitalize on regulatory and technological changes that allowed for the national scale. The repeal of the Fairness Doctrine in 1987 freed affiliates to air controversial political opinions without government scrutiny. As music programming migrated to the FM spectrum, AM bandwidth welcomed talk. Listener participation was also critical. It was not until 1982, writes Nicole Hemmer, that AT&T introduced the modern direct dial toll-free calling system that national call-ins use. Limbaugh made the most of those opportunities, and he contributed stylistic innovations of his own. He treated politics not only as a competition of ideas, but also as a contest between liberal elites and the American public. He also added the irreverent and sometimes scandalous humor and cultural commentary of the great DJs. He introduced neologisms that he invented, still in circulation, like Dittohead, Drive-By Media, Talent on Loan from God, Feminazi. The template he created has been so successful that the list of his imitators on both the left and the right is endless. Even his greatest critics, like Al Franken, wanted in the act. Dostoevsky is attributed with saying that the great Russian writers all came out of Gogol's overcoat. Political talk show hosts all come out of Rush Limbaugh's microphone. Limbaugh is not fringe. His views fit in the conservative mainstream. He idolizes Buckley. Buckley was a fundamental individual in helping me to be able to explain what I believe instinctively, helping me to explain it to others, Limbaugh once said. The ideas are the same, the salesman is different. Limbaugh is Buckley without the accent, without the Yale, without the sailboat, without the harpsichord. Limbaugh, college dropout from Cape Girardeau, Missouri, who spends Sundays watching the NFL, speaks in plain language. His background connects him to his audience and to the increasing working-class Republican voter. Limbaugh entered stage right as Ronald Reagan was making his exit. He took from Reagan the sense that America's future is bright. America isn't broken, just its liberal political media and cultural elites. He rejected Washington elitism and connected directly with the American people who adored him, Limbaugh said after Reagan's death. He didn't need the press. He didn't need the press to spin what he was or what he did. He had the ability to connect individually with each American who saw them. He said of Reagan, it was true of him too. And yet the two never met. Limbaugh assumed Reagan's position as leader of the conservative movement. In a letter sent to Limbaugh after the 1992 election, Ronald Reagan wrote this to him, quote, "Now that I've retired from active politics, I don't mind that you have become the number one voice for conservatism in our country. I know the liberals call you the most dangerous man in America, but don't worry about it. They used to say the same things about me. Keep up the good work. America needs to hear the way things ought to be," close quote. It's the title of Rush's first book. In a long and even-handed cover story in 1993 by James Bowman, National Review pronounced Limbaugh, quote, "the leader of the opposition." Bowman quoted R. Emmett Tyrrell, saying, "We need to have people who can dramatize ideas. You need that literary spark. Luigi Barzini had it. Buckley has it. And though he's a great talker rather than a great writer, Rush has it too." More than a decade later, after the Republican defeat in 2008, Limbaugh once again stepped into the breach. The media likened Barack Obama to FDR. Republicans wavered. Should they cooperate with President Obama in building a new foundation for America? Limbaugh gave his answer in 2009. Limbaugh said he hoped Obama failed. "Liberalism is our problem. Liberalism is what's gotten us dangerously close to the precipice. Why would I want more of it?" The monologue and the speech he delivered at the CPAC conference in Washington became a sensation and set the tone for the Tea Party and Republican victories in 2010 and 2014. Limbaugh did not mock Trump when the businessman announced his presidential campaign in June of 2015. Quote, "This is going to resonate with a lot of people, I guarantee you, and the drive-bys are going to poo-poo it," he said. He spent the primary reminding listeners of the importance of defeating Hillary Clinton. Trump was not an ideological candidate, he said. Trump was a missile aimed at the establishment. If ideology mattered, then you vote for Ted Cruz. If conservatism is your bag, if conservatism is the dominating factor in how you vote, Limbaugh said in February of 2016, there is no other choice for you in this campaign than Ted Cruz, because you are exactly right. This is the closest in our lifetime we have ever been to Ronald Reagan. But Limbaugh added, the feeling in the country might be so anti-establishment that Trump's unusual coalition could win the presidency. And it did. To say that Limbaugh supported the president would be an understatement. Bold, brash, divisive, funny, and amped up, President Trump's style was very similar to a shock jockey's. His presidency was another reminder of Limbaugh's staying power, too. The American right had been molded in his elitist, grassroots, demotic, irreverent, patriotic, hard-charging image. Rush Limbaugh was not just a talk show host. He defined an era. He had a point to make, and he made it. Britt Hume put it this way: more than any single person, Rush Limbaugh helped break the left's monopoly of the media. The left is still dominant, but not to the extent it was before he came along. He waged a brave struggle against deafness and later the cancer that killed him. He was a giant. But what a great point about breaking the monopoly Britt makes. He did it long before Fox News came along, long before the blogosphere, long before the internet. He showed it could be done and how it could be done. His reach was amazing. If you were a writer and he quoted your work, you would hear from uncountable old friends or acquaintances you hadn't been in touch with for years or decades, and that piece of work would, of course, get thousands or tens of thousands of more clicks or views. I can tell you I've been more than honored and privileged to have had that experience a few times. You only have that reach if you have credibility, by the way. He had both. And it was one of the great honors and privileges to have when he cited your work. To borrow from Aristotle, he had the power to be and make things be. As Virgil wrote, Here, too, things noble touch the soul, and there are tears for passing things. Rest in peace, Mr. Limbaugh. You've earned it.